I venture to say the last thing that people really want to think about this time of year is taxes, but it is an important thing. Thanks so much for joining us here on Aspire to Retire with Ralph Short, Tim Short, and Scott Earhart of Welcome Home Financial Partners. You can find them online, welcomehomefp.com. That is the website. Made it real easy for you. Just click on the podcast description. There's a link that takes you right there, as well as all their social media pages. But again, welcomehomefp.com is the website. My name is Chris Swan, and I'm pleased to be joined by Ralph Short, Tim Short, and Scott Earhart. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Good to see you, Chris.
Doing well. So as of right now, when we're recording this, we're just a little bit removed from tax season. And some people paid a lot. Some people maybe paid very little. Some people maybe even got a refund. But once it's done, people generally don't think about taxes again until I would say maybe closer to the end of the year. Of course, you guys, I know this is a year-long process. And, when it comes to taxes, location, I think is actually something a lot of people don't think about. Kevin O'Leary, though, from Shark Tank, he's looking for a place to put his new data center, and he's looking for a state that's got a favorable tax treatment.
Look at Tennessee right now, fastest growing city in America, Nashville, winner state, good policy, competitive taxes. You've got to start thinking about this in the context of winners and losers. New York, mega loser state.
Then you also have, Jeff Bezos from Amazon. He's moving to Florida, and that could save him $600 million in taxes. How do you help? Not just necessarily with moving, but just taxes in general.
Well, it's kind of funny. A lot of folks, they want to flock to states that don't have, your state income tax. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't want to move just for that, though. So what we have to focus in on is, what your retirement looks like with taxes, because we're all going to have to pay taxes. But we are just removed from tax time, so everybody's still a little bit grumpy, right? Yeah. We still kind of feel the burn. So it's really important, as you're building up this wealth that's going to turn into your retirement income, how can we make that as tax friendly as possible? It's not about the state that you're living in, although some states do have better treatment. It's all about where you want to live, right? If you want to live in the state of Virginia, if you want to live in the state of Montana, whatever it is, you need to make sure that your retirement needs to be tax friendly. And that's what we talk to folks about. And like you said, Chris, this is a year-round process. This isn't just focusing on March or April or dragging your feet till 11:59 on April 15th. Mm-hmm. It's about how can we position things in the right way to make sure that we do pay our taxes. We have to pay our share, but we don't pay any more.
I would say, too, everybody around this table, probably including you, Chris, would agree that, Kevin O'Leary and Jeff Bezos is probably fairly intelligent, or they wouldn't be where they are right now.
Yeah.
So if they're thinking that they don't have to pay the maximum tax benefit, how can I reduce it? We should probably listen to some of the things that they're looking at and not pay more than we need to pay. Would you agree, Scott?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I say this to clients all the time. I'm a proud American. We own a proud American business here at Welcome Home Financial Partners. We pay our taxes. Our goal is just to not pay a dime more than we absolutely have to. And that's our goal for our clients as well. So for a lot of people, they work for years and years and years to save money and to prepare for retirement. And they're working with people that are good at helping them accumulate that wealth. Well, at some point, the switch has to flip, and we have to start talking about how do we distribute that wealth. And a key portion of that, and something we really focus on, is going to be how are you going to be treated taxably. No state in the United States of America is perfect. There is no perfect place to live. Even though you might pay less taxes in state X, it may have some other fees to live there, or you may have 20 inches of snow in May. It might not be where you want to live. There's no perfect place. What needs to happen is you need to sit down with a financial professional, build out a retirement plan, utilize our retirement roadmap if you want to understand what your income is going to be, what that's going to do to you taxably, and how to prepare to live out your retirement in the fashion you want to.
And a lot of people need to understand, because a lot of them, when we start talking to them about taxes, they say, well, I'm over 65, I'm retired, why am I paying taxes? I said, well, that's because the IRS says that you need to, mm-hmm. because it's not based on your age, and not based on whether you're retired or not. It is always going to be based on your income. And those income levels depends on how much you pay in taxes. It's always going to change. Right now, it's at a certain level. Well, believe it or not, the government will make changes in our lifetime. Whether it's good or not for us is a different question or a different answer. So just be aware, you are going to pay taxes in retirement. Our job is to make sure you don't pay a dime more than you need to.
Yeah, and you don't want your location to kind of dictate where you're going to be. So there's a lot of people when they come see us and we talk about risk and we talk about market volatility, and they say, well, guess what? My plan's going to be if the market's down that year, I'm not going to take any trips. And it's like, why would you live your golden years that way? And why are you going to let the market dictate your retirement plan? I kind of relate that with the tax situation. If you want to stay in your current state, but your state still has income tax on your retirement, your pension, whatever it looks like, why are you going to move to a different state just so you don't have to pay that? So you don't want to wait until the finish line. Let me ask you this, Chris. If you're running a 10K marathon, are you going to start running at the finish line?
No.
Exactly. So why start talking about taxes once you get to the finish line? Let's start talking about taxes beforehand. That's very important.
Tim, when's the last time you ran a 10K?
That's the only way we would win the 10K is
That's just
start
it.
at the finish line.
I do want to amend that. I actually do start running a little faster at the end of a 10K because that's where the photographers are, and so you got to make sure you're not dragging yourself across. But that's beside the point. There is a inherent difference between tax minimization and tax avoidance. There's a difference between Jeff Bezos and Wesley Snipes comes to mind. You want to make sure you are paying what you are entitled to pay, but not a penny more, and having that strategy, whether it is perhaps moving, whether it is looking at Roth conversions, things like that. Because here is the truth: taxes almost certainly going to go up in the future. $34 trillion in debt right now, and that the number keeps going up. The Trump tax cuts are set to sunset at the end of 2025, and at that point, just a reversion is an increase in the taxes. So making sure that you are aware of that is certainly important, but also what steps you can be doing right now to make sure that you get to keep as much of your hard-earned money, because I think that is universal. Everyone out there wants to keep as much as possible. You may have spent time in April, early April, trying to figure out if you can claim your robot vacuum as a dependent or something for a deduction, And those are clever things to don't do that, but those are clever things to minimize what you owe for the year prior. But what are you doing to plan for the years ahead? Are you developing that tax strategy? If you haven't yet, the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners, they would love to speak with you. Start developing that strategy as part of the retirement blueprint process. Just go to the website, welcomehomefp.com. Like I say so often, if you just click on the podcast description, the link will take you right there, welcomehomefp.com. You probably spent a lot of money raising your kids, talking about another thing where you maybe don't get the best ROI, I don't know. And then you help them pay for school. At that point, some parents say that they've done enough and they're not interested in leaving their kids a lot of money. It's certainly your prerogative. But there was an article in Kiplinger, guys, that said moms and dads, they do soften up as they get older. So how do you help them work through the inheritance question, the beyond part of retirement?
What I would say to most people, it's an independent decision, because we have clients come in and they will tell me they got this big pot of money for their 401k, and they don't want to take any money out of that account because they want to give it all to their kids. And I had to inform them, guess what? You don't have a choice. Sooner or later, if you're still around, you're going to have to take some money out. Mm-hmm. And what you do with it, that's up to you, but that's called RMDs in your retirement accounts. And there's other people that come in and will say, hey, what I would like to do is spend the very last dollar the day that I'm no longer here. And they said, I've earned this money. I've worked for it. Nobody else has. My kids didn't, so I want to enjoy it. And I said, well, that's very simple to do. You have to answer one question for me. The day that you are no longer going to be here, what's that date? Mm-hmm. Then it's a simple mathematical equation. This is how much money you need to take out. So there is no right or wrong answer. It depends on what you're trying to do. But understand, if you give 18 to 20-year-old $300,000 at your death, what do you think is going to happen? Okay? More than likely, they're going to buy one big, fast car, probably have a good time, and probably either have a wreck or maybe even worse. So you have to remember how you were when you're 18 or 20. So understand it's a personal decision, but you got to determine what you want to do.
Well, that's a good segue to the angel child over here. So, Chris, can you tell me the formula for the ROI for raising your kids? I'd love to see that.
I don't know. I've spent a lot of money on dinosaurs so far. That's all I know.
Ralph, how's your ROI been?
Is in the red? Is that a description of it, or?
Just asking the question.
Okay. I feel like I'm getting attacked over here. But anyway, so it's important to point out the Secure Act, right? So a lot of folks don't understand, hey, if we've got this retirement account and it's all pre-tax and we want to leave it to our kids, well, there's certain rules that they're going to have to follow the 10-year period. So a lot of people need to, I shouldn't say a lot of people, there's a lot of folks who could utilize some other strategies to make sure that the government doesn't necessarily put their hands on the inheritance that they're giving to their kids or grandkids. So it's not as simple as saying, hey, I've got this great big IRA or 401k, I want to leave it to my kids. Okay, no harm, no foul. Well, guess what? At that point in time, they're going to be restricted as far as timing for when they have to pay their taxes. And a lot of folks don't realize that.
When I look at this question, or as we talk about it, I think a lot about, how Welcome Home Financial Partners was designed and what makes us different from so many other financial professionals out there. And I think it starts at that very, very first meeting. When we first meet someone, our job is not to put them into a product, not to tell them what to do. Our job and the way we go about it is to simply listen to those individuals, whether it's a single person, a married couple, whatever it may be, and what are their goals. If the goal is to leave dollars to their children, or the goal is to spend every dime you have, there's no right answer to that, as Ralph was alluding to. But it's our job to understand what these individuals' goals are and then help them prepare a plan that helps them achieve those goals. But at the same time, we have to understand that things change over time. People get softer, as you were saying, Chris. Maybe when you're 67 and just retiring, I want to spend all my money and I don't want anything to do. But then 75 rolls around and now you've got two beautiful grandbabies or whatever it is, and now you're more concerned about paying for their college or whatever it may be. Whatever we design can't be locked in stone. It's got to be pliable, and we can't ever stop listening to people, what their goals are when we first meet them, what their goals are the next time we see them, and so on and so forth. We've got to be able to help them create a plan that fits their needs, but at the same time is pliable enough that if their needs or their goals, desires change, we can change with them.
And two pieces of advice I would tell parents when I talk to them is, first off, money and family that's not a good mixture, because sooner or later there's going to be some conflict there. And, I've seen instances where granddaddy had a favorite shotgun that he had, and there's a daughter that wanted it. The son said he wanted it, and they hadn't spoken to each other for 10 years because of that situation. So it's not all about the money. It's all about what you're trying to do. If you can have a plan to avoid those type of situations, so you would have family unity, that's something I do talk to people about. But the other thing is, people need to teach their children about money. How does it work? What it's used for? How do you need to do things like that? We, I think, fall short of that a lot of times because we're always in our day-to-day routine of making that money. And we forget about saying, hey, granddaughter, this is what I think you need to do, because you need to understand this. Just because you can give them money, no matter who it is, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to use it the right way.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about different tools that you can use to make sure that you still have control. So one good tool to use would be a trust. So you could say inside your trust, hey, if I leave money to my 3 kids, hey, you can have this at this time or when you graduate college or whatever it looks like. So it's very important, because family and money don't mix, and we meet with a lot of people that say, hey, my kids get along, I don't need this, I'm not worried about it. But then the next thing you know, their death happens, and now they're fighting each other tooth and nail. So it's very important. Sit down with a financial professional. We talk about in the retirement roadmap, one of the pieces we do talk about is estate planning and leaving a legacy. So that's very important.
Scott, did you notice Tim just staring at Ralph when we started talking about the inheritance question? Like you could feel it, just the daggers going. No, jokes aside.
Did you feel the lasers?
Yeah. I kind of rolled back in my chair. I mean, that's I love our business partnership, but when it comes to the family and money conversation, I tend to just leave the room. It'd be a little awkward in the middle of a podcast, just up and leave. But We'll let them handle it.
No. I mean, jokes aside, we understand the inheritance question is sometimes not the pleasant conversation to have, but here's the truth of it. No one gets out of here alive. And so you want to make sure that, you've got a plan in place, whether that is to, get to enjoy the fruits of your labor the most. And if there is anything left over, then it goes to the children and the grandchildren, or, leaving that large legacy, that large inheritance behind. But you have to have a plan in place, and that plan can change, whether that is you personally changing things, whether that is the government changing things. The Secure Act, a great example. Another example, by the way, of a taxation that is not inherently spelled out as a taxation. That money is still going to the government without proper planning. And that is why, as you guys said, the plan shouldn't be locked in stone. That is why the roadmap analogy works so well, because if something takes you off course, whether that is personally or whether that is something beyond our control, how do we get back to where it is that we want to be? It is all part of that roadmap process, getting you to retirement, through retirement, and beyond retirement, and making sure that it is all handled in a way that you see fit. And it starts by reaching out to the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners. WelcomeHomeFP.com is the website. You can just click right through there on the podcast description, take you to the website, find out more about Ralph, Tim, and Scott, find out more about the First Friday events they've got coming up and other events, and schedule a time to speak with them. Again, WelcomeHomeFP.com. Want to thank you, as we always do, for joining us here on Aspire to Retire with Ralph, Tim, and Scott. Gentlemen, appreciate your time. As we wrap up here, I want to leave you with the final word.
Thank you, Chris. So yeah, if you are by chance listening to this directly after tax time and you're still feeling the burn from taxation, if you want some tax strategies for your retirement, in retirement, or even before retirement, give us a call, reach out to us, and then we can discuss leaving a legacy and trust. So if you're interested in attending one of our events, you can visit the website and see what's coming up next as well. And as always, thank you for listening.
All content is for information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax or legal advice or provide the basis for any financial decision, nor is it intended to be a projection of current or future performance or indication or future results. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Welcome Home Financial Partners and Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC. The information contained in this material has been derived from sources believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness, and does not purport to a complete analysis of the materials discussed. All information and ideas should be discussed in detail with your individual advisor prior to the implementation. Each individual investor's situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstance. Advisor services are offered by Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Virginia. Being registered as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Insurance products and services are offered through WPI Holding, Virginia Insurance License Number 138509, an affiliated company. The information contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services to any residents of any state other than the state of Virginia or where otherwise legally permitted. Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC and Welcome Home Financial Partners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency.